I'm making this video specifically for SaaS PMs and SaaS entrepreneurs. If you are thinking about introducing API as a first-class citizen for growth, for increasing your metrics, this video is just for you. An interesting stat, this comes out of a Postman survey. In 2025, Postman did a survey and found out that 82% of the companies are now API first already. These companies see API as a smart business move. For them, this is an investment strategy that is bound to deliver compounding growth year over year and also serve as a defensible strategy against their competitors. Just because you build an API into your product doesn't make your product API ready. Most teams go about building an API by just simply slapping an API into an existing product. It's a cheap integration and they call it API ready. Well, that is not going to compound your growth by any means. API ready products have their own outcomes, they have their own product roadmaps. In fact, people are tracking metrics against APIs. Commonly tracked metrics include activation, revenue-related metrics like retention, and so on. In fact, one of the successful metrics to see if your APIs are working or not is time to value for the first successful responses, because your customers, core customers, are developers, and for them, responses, having that clean integration, that time to value from a successful integration matters a lot. An example that I want to quote here is Stripe. You heard about Stripe, right? Stripe, when it was launched, it had just 7 lines of code, less than 10 actually. No UI, absolutely zero UI, no dashboard. And fast forward to now, look at its annual volume in terms of payment processing. It's doing close to $1.9 trillion. That is $1.9 trillion economy, right? You can't get to that just by building APIs onto an existing layer. You have to start with that as the end goal. As you look to steer your product in an API first direction, you want to focus on 3 key metrics here. The number one metric really is activation and time to value. You see, unlike a traditional SaaS product, which can be driven more by sales and slash marketing, API-driven products are primarily influenced by developers. They are the real budget authority here. For a developer, if he or she cannot complete the integration or get the successful response to the API in less than 10 minutes, then that's going to be a failed activation. Now, the reason I say it is, unlike a traditional SaaS product where users get influenced by user experience or a polished and sophisticated UI, in the case of API-driven products, it works the other way around. Developers try out the product. In fact, they try out the APIs. They want to see the value first. So value actually triggers trust. Once you acquire the trust of the developers, then you get the commitment, which is the actual pricing or which is the actual purchase. The second key focus area is retention. In fact, I would go one step further and discuss retention as how deeply or the depth of the integration that your APIs are in terms of embedding within the customer's primary use case scenarios. In fact, if your APIs have successfully merged along with the customer's critical use case scenarios, such as triggering automations or operational workflows or customer experience related workflows, then chances are you have really increased the overall cost of ownership. The stickiness factor is exponentially increased. According to research from Profitwell, 500,000 companies reported that having multiple integrations within the customer's critical use case scenarios improved their retention factor by a huge margin. They found out that 58% of the companies are less likely to churn if your product integrates with at least 4 or more integrations. Now, the third metric that I want to talk about here is the API maturity. And the level of API maturity that you have built into your product is can be a force multiplier for revenue growth. In fact, according to Postman, about 43% of the companies that are fully API ready, meaning they have a baked roadmap specifically targeting APIs, they have governance structures around APIs, generate more than 25% of their total revenue completely out of APIs. So keep that in mind. 43% of the companies that are actively investing in an API ready, API first solution derive 25% of their overall revenue purely from APIs. API first as a product strategy can definitely unlock better revenue metrics for you. To accomplish this end goal, focus on two things. From a business strategy point of view, make a note of all the metrics that you're really interested in and focus on that. Activation, retention, revenue, integration depth. These are some of the key metrics that you want to focus on. From a product strategy point of view, focus on time to value. Focus on making your API specs readily consumable by AI layers. Number three, from a product operations point of view, make sure you have product roadmap set up for API development as well as product documentation. And finally, this is the key. Instrument your API usage so you have better tracking in terms of consumption and quota uses. Thank you. And if you're interested in more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much.